Welcome, today's story is full of drama. Like and subscribe to stay updated. Let's get started.
Hey Ethan, you're going out with Monica tonight, right? Yeah, why? Do you have to work late again? Yeah, 2 more weeks and then you'll be home every night. I know it's been tough on both of us, but I'll make it up to you, I promise. It's not been that bad. As long as Monica's been willing to go out once a week, we have a couple of drinks, and I'm always home by 9. I've been home before you every time except once. Got it. Have fun. The project I had been working on was winding down. Megan had been understanding after the first couple of weeks, especially after convincing her sister to let her have a night out. Normally, I wasn't too fond of my sister-in-law, but she had kept Megan off my back. Megan had also found a reliable babysitter, allowing her to get out of the house. Tonight, I was working alone at the office, and then I had to drop some papers off at the Emerald Plaza Hotel by the airport. After that, I was meeting my out-of-town counterpart, Greg, who had finished his part of the project earlier that day and was waiting there for me. I walked into the hotel looking for Greg. He was married but often frequented different lounges when he was away from home. He claimed he loved his wife, but I didn't think his marriage vows were enough to keep him grounded. I found him near the entrance to the restrooms. Hey, Liam, I've got something lined up. 2 stunning women, and they promised to come up to my room. You're welcome to join me. I need to talk to you about a few things regarding the project. It'll take at least 45 minutes. Have you had dinner? No. Why don't you grab dinner first? I think these 2 might be married. They said they have to leave by 8:30, so you'll still make it home on time. You sure you don't want to join me upstairs? No, you go ahead. I'll be up later. I wanted to see who Greg had lined up, so I backed around the corner where I could see him and his guests. I saw all right it was Monica and Megan. I felt like I had just been kicked in the gut. I watched as the 3 headed for the elevator. Both women were giggling, and Greg had his hand cupping their butts as if they loved it. I saw Megan reach over and rub the front of his trousers. An older couple was passing, and the woman got a disgusted look on her face while the man looked envious. I headed for the bar. To hell with eating. I wouldn't be able to swallow anything solid. I downed a scotch and ordered another. I couldn't let go of what was happening upstairs. I called Greg's room. Greg, maybe I will join you. When I come up, let me in, will you? Sure. These babes are hot, and one has drained me already. I need help. 5 minutes later, I was standing outside his room, knocking on the door. Greg had slipped on a pair of boxers. I could see one woman in bed with her head covered. Where is the other one? I whispered to Greg. In the bathroom, cleaning up. She'll be out in a minute. Take a look at this one. He walked over and pulled the cover off completely. It was Monica. Monica lay there naked. She had her eyes squeezed shut with a grimace on her face, which didn't last long when she opened her eyes. A look of horror came over her face. She made a grab for the sheet, but Greg thought she was playing shy and wouldn't let her have it. Finally, Monica jumped off the bed and ran to the bathroom door. Screaming for Megan to open it, I watched her all the way. Monica was nowhere as attractive as Megan, being shorter and thicker through the middle. Greg, puzzled by Monica's reaction, asked, "What's the matter with her?" "That Greg is my sister-in-law. I suspect you've just finished having sex with my wife. This was supposed to be their girls' night out while I worked. I guess they like playing a different game when I'm not around. Man, I didn't know." "Hey, don't sweat it. I'm not blaming you. Leave them in there. Let's get this project finished." I strung out my business with Greg for almost an hour. I knew both women were watching from the bathroom. Megan's cell phone rang. It was lying on the table beside the bed. I picked it up and answered. It was the babysitter wanting to know when Megan would be home. "I'm with her. It'll be an hour before we get there. Will that be too late for you?" "No, Mr. Carter. She just has never been this late before." I had seen the women peek out while I was talking on the phone. Greg was getting worried now. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I'm taking all of their things, clothes, phones, money, everything. I imagine if they call hotel management, they might furnish something to cover themselves with. You can pay their taxi fare to Megan's home, as I have the keys to her car. Tell my wife not to come home tonight. Relay that I have to work tomorrow and she'll find the baby at her mother's. I'll drop him off on my way." "Greg, tell me, how is my wife anyway? Be honest, I'd like to know. She gave me some of the wildest sex I've ever had." "That's good to know. I'm glad for you. It hasn't been that great for me recently." "Well, I'll see you one more time when this project is completed at the end of next week. See you. I walked out with their clothes and bags bundled under my arm. The only things I left them were their shoes. Security didn't even glance my way as I passed them in the hall. I went home, paid the babysitter, and looked in on my son. Poor little guy. His world was about to be seriously turned upside down. I went to bed. The phone rang and I let it go to voicemail. It was Megan, saying she was at Monica's, but their neighbor Bill was causing trouble, and she wanted to come home before the police were called. I took the phone off the hook and went back to bed. At 4:30 a.m., the baby was wakened by the doorbell and was crying for his mother. Megan could see him whimpering in my arms. She started to come by the cop, but he held his hand out, stopping her from coming near me. Can your wife come home? Her brother-in-law kicked her out, and she needs a place to stay. I suspect, as violent as he was acting, he has been arrested by now. I opened the door wide and stepped out. Megan came by the officer, and I handed Ben to her. She rushed into the house, clinging to the baby. Will you two be all right, no fighting or anything? Sure. I'm not a physical person. We'll be checking off and on. Be my guest. I've never raised my hand to her, even if she is a cheating liar. Megan had stopped to see what the officer would say to me. He looked at her with a question. I'll be okay. You can leave, I'll be safe enough. The officer left, shaking his head. I guess he'd seen all kinds of domestic situations. Megan, I started, don't say a damn word to me. You've just about killed me. Now I'm going to be the butt of company gossip. If you were going to cheat on me, why did it have to be with someone I know? Go on, get out of my sight. I'm sleeping in the guest room. You can take care of Ben. I looked into our bedroom when I got up. Megan was sleeping with Ben cuddled in her arms. I made coffee and left the pot plugged in for her. I ate breakfast at a diner near where I worked. When my boss showed up, I requested a meeting. Richard, I caught my wife cheating last night. Greg picked up 2 women at the hotel bar. It just happened to be my wife and her sister. I want to transfer out of town to another division as soon as possible. I don't see how that's possible. Then I quit. Well, don't do that. I need you right here. Think about it for a few days. Have you talked this out with your wife yet? What about your kid? Are you going to leave him too? No. Oh God, I don't know. I'm seeing a lawyer later today if I can get an appointment. Use the company attorney, that's what we pay him for. I'll set it up for you. I take it you're worried about gossip. I'll call Greg and tell him to keep his mouth shut. He will, because he won't want his wife finding out. The company doesn't approve of our managers picking up women in bars. I'll get on his supervisor's ass to give him hell. Where are you on the project you're working on? I don't have much to do on it this week. The staff will put it together with some long days. I'll be able to wind it up next week. Take a few days off. Get things settled and decide what you're going to do about your wife. Leaving the company just isn't an option. I know you must be terribly hurt. You have to decide what's going to hurt the least, keeping her or divorcing her. Good luck. I went home, pulled the lawnmower out of the garage and mowed the lawn. I trimmed around the flower beds and pruned the lower branches on the flowering crab tree. Megan came out and stood, waiting for me to recognize her presence. Ethan, I made you a sandwich. Would you come in and eat it? I put the tools away and went in to clean up. I sat down. Megan, I cut her off. If you have an excuse, I'll listen to you. I can't think of one that I could conceivably accept, but I will listen. Ben is 19 months old. How much thought have you given to him? I have a meeting with a lawyer this afternoon at 2. Maybe he can advise me what to do, for I surely don't know. Ethan, She stopped and then started again. Ethan, She stopped again. Finally, she said, Ethan, I don't have any excuse that you could accept. I do want to say I'm sorry. Not for myself, but for you. She got up and left, and I heard her go up to the bedroom. Soon, I could hear Ben coming down the stairs, one at a time, sliding on his butt so he wouldn't fall. He came running, as much as a kid his age could, to where I was still sitting at the table. Mommy crying. Does she have boo-boo? Yes, I think she does. But it's inside, where we can't kiss it and make it all better. Maybe if you went back up and hugged her, she would stop crying. After he got upstairs, I shouted up, I'm leaving. Ben is with you, isn't he? Megan came to the head of the stairs and looked down. Yes, he is. Please come back, Ethan. I turned and went out the door without answering. My first session with the attorney wasn't much help to me. He was cautious about giving advice. When I said something about it, he reminded me that he was being paid by the company, and they had indicated they definitely wanted to keep me. He did give me several options. I just had to pick the one I was most comfortable with. Don't make any snap decisions. I'll give you the name of a marriage counselor, they help sometimes. Most of all, you probably want to know why she was doing this to you. The counselor can usually find that out. You may not like what she comes up with, but then again, it might not have anything to do with you. Most of all, if you think you want to keep your wife, don't be mean. She probably knows what a big mistake she has made and is looking for forgiveness. If you want to live the rest of your life with her, you will have to give her that. Just don't forgive unless it's unconditional. If you do, that's a sure road to happiness, and resentment will grow. Resentment, I guarantee, will lead to a divorce, and by that time it will be on her terms. Of course, the whole thing comes down to trust. If you think you can never trust her, you can never forgive her. For the time being, show as much respect as you can, even when you know she doesn't deserve it. You have a child together, so you will have contact with her for the rest of your life, even if you feel you have to divorce her. It's not easy if you both remarry, especially for the child. So it's your decision. I'll start proceedings if that's what you feel you want. I returned home, and before I spoke to Megan, I made a call from the den to the marriage counselor. It would be 10 days before I was able to get an appointment. It was going to be costly, but for the moment it would be worth it. I could terminate the services at any time. I came out of the den, and Megan was waiting for me. Are you divorcing me? I don't know yet. There's no hurry. Of course, if you want one, I'll bow to your wishes and start the proceedings. Do you? No, Ethan. I want to stay married to you, and I want you to love me and trust me again. How can I be sure? I mean, I've trusted you ever since we were married. How many times have you been unfaithful? Ethan, you know I was unfaithful. Do I need to tell you that? I studied her. Would I get the truth? I thought I would, but it would hurt me to hear her confession. I decided to wait until she talked with the marriage counselor. Megan, I've made an appointment with someone who counsels broken marriages. It will be a week from this Thursday. I can't make that day, so you will be taking the first appointment by yourself. That is, if you want to keep this marriage together. Is it a man or a woman? It is a woman, and she comes well recommended. I can talk to her if you insist. Maybe she can show me how I can get you to trust me again. Is there anything else you want me to do? Yes. I want you tested for diseases. Greg told me you were in the bathroom cleaning up. That tells me he wasn't wearing protection. I have an appointment at the clinic for myself tomorrow. Oh God. Megan ran up to the bedroom and shut the door. 10 minutes later, Ben came down and told me his mother had another boo-boo. Before dinner was started, Megan's mother, Linda, showed up at the door. What's going on, Ethan? Greg kicked Monica out and she's staying at my place. He spent the night in jail for domestic abuse, although she only has some scratches that drew blood. Where are Megan and Ben? They're upstairs. Ben is upset because his mother is crying. I told him she had a hidden boo-boo. If I were like Greg, she'd have more than hidden ones. I get mad every time I think of my coworker telling me how wild a piece of my wife is, while I never get to experience it. You mean she's been unfaithful? Monica wouldn't tell me what she and Greg were fighting about. She did let it slip that Megan was involved, but that's all. I'll talk to her. How did you find out? I caught them in a hotel room when I delivered some work to Greg. Monica was naked in bed, and Megan was cleaning up in the bathroom. Before you talk to Megan, Ben's downstairs with me, Linda. I can't think of why Megan did this. She's admitted there isn't any excuse. 4 years we've been married. I know we jumped into marriage pretty quick, and I don't know much about her life before me. I do think I would have had some indication of something like this, though. I know I could believe this of Monica, but not Megan. Ben came down the stairs, saying that Grammy was here but didn't want to see him. Just Mommy. He was kind of hurt, so I took him out into the backyard to play. The upstairs window was open, and I overheard the conversation taking place in my bedroom. Megan, what the hell were you thinking? Why did you do this? You were so lucky to have him fall in love with you. You're just so damn dumb. Last night was supposed to be the last time, honest. Next week was going to be the end of it for the rest of my life. Don't you think I love Ethan and Ben? Monica was behind it all, wasn't she? Yes. I had to do it. God, if I could only let myself go when Ethan and I have sex, I'd never even think about another man. Monica must have known I was holding back. If only she didn't have those damn pictures of me at the frat party taken when I was in college. I wish now that she had shown them to Ethan, as she threatened. He would have believed that I had put it all behind me. Now he never will. Mom, I'm still hoping he will keep me, even if he doesn't trust me. I'm going to be so true to him. I swear it. I heard her burst into tears. When the sobbing stopped, she continued. Mom, what am I going to do? I think Ethan wants me to stay, but he needs to know I won't ever do something like this again. Just 2 times being unfaithful has destroyed my whole life. I know, dear, but it only takes once. Has he seen a lawyer yet? Yes, this afternoon. The lawyer suggested counseling, and Ethan has set up appointments. I think he wants to find out why I cheated and then make a decision. Do you think I should tell him about Monica before I go to her? He might more likely believe you, but then he might believe the counselor when she draws it out of you. Damn Monica. The little. I wish I had never adopted her. Talk about bad seed. If I had only known. I know, Mom. This isn't the first time I've been taken in by her. How did you get sucked into this, Megan? I honestly thought Monica had changed. When Ethan started working such long hours, at first Monica and I went out for drinks. Then she picked up a man and claimed Greg wasn't taking care of her. She said she was a little afraid, so I went along with her up to the hotel room, and they got it on. I admit it made me excited. I had absolutely no thoughts of joining in, though. That went on for a couple of weeks, and then Monica told me that if I didn't join her, she was going to show Ethan the tapes of me that she's kept. I balked, and she gave me 2 weeks to think it over. Then she said she was going to send them to all of the people Ethan knows, including those he works with. I had to go ahead, then. That was a week ago, and last night was the second time. Next week was supposed to be the end of it. And you were going to believe her? What choice did I have? Megan, I think it's a good thing that Ethan caught you before you had to find out more. And more, I think you should level with Ethan. If he doesn't believe you, he's less of a man than I think he is. I took Ben inside. Megan and Linda came down the stairs 15 minutes later. I had some thinking to do. Megan, watch Ben. I'm going out for a beer. Come back soon. I think we have something to talk about. I'm not as bad as you might think. Yeah, I bet. Remember where I found you last night? If there was any talking to do, it should have happened before this. I turned and slammed the door on my way out. I drove by Linda's house and Monica's car was parked in the driveway. I pulled in and went into the house. Monica was lying on the couch, waking up as I entered. Monica, I'm buying you a beer. I want to know some things about Megan, and you're the only one who can tell me about her. Beer is good. I took my sister-in-law to a little bar that wasn't one I frequented. I took a booth in the back and ordered. Okay, now tell me everything about your family. I don't know how long it will take, and it might take until the bar closes, but I want to know everything, especially about Megan. I may have just been set up by her and your mother. That doesn't surprise me. What specifically do you want to know? Her high school years and after. Her relationship with your mother, yours too, for that matter. Relationships? I don't know how to tell you, but both Megan and I are adopted. Mom has always gotten along better with Megan than me. We came from the same orphanage at the same time, but I've always been treated as a poor relation. Maybe because she's prettier than me. Anything Megan does is okay with Mom. After we got old enough and were in school, if a boy wanted to get laid, Megan was the girl to go to. I know I'm talking about the love of your life, but I can give you names to verify. What about you? Did you also have sexual relations? Yes, but only with my steady boyfriend at the time. I had 3 of them from middle school through high school. When I got to college, I didn't have a boyfriend until my 3rd year. Megan was the one to go to all the frat parties. There's no doubt Megan is a lot smarter than I am. I had to study while she was able to go out. Okay, tell me about the last few weeks you've been going out. You were both caught in a compromising situation last night. I was there. Tears started forming in Monica's eyes as she spoke. Megan has been making me join her. She's had the perfect cover with you working all the time. Did you know she wants to become an adult book author? She can write about her previous experiences, but the wildlife has changed in the last 2 years. The routine has been for her to find us someone, and she goes for a quickie, then watches me so she'll know what to write in her stories. That's the way it's been for the last 7 weeks. After next week, she has someone else besides me to go with her in the afternoon while Mom watches Ben. You said things have changed in the last 2 years. What did you mean? Megan and I have been married for 4 years. You poor fool. Megan has been screwing around on you since you met her. She's had an amazing run of luck not to get caught. You might want to get Ben's DNA checked. Oh God, no. Megan's never said he was anyone else's. But you're right, I should know for sure. He's always going to be my son, though, whatever. I'm glad you caught us last night. This frees me from being blackmailed ever again. I also found out what kind of a husband I have and how violent he is. I'll probably get tagged in the divorce proceedings as an adulteress, but I can now start my life over. What does Megan hold over you? I don't mind telling you now. It always seemed to involve getting me drunk, slipping me ecstasy, and then me performing with one or more men. It happened the last year of college and then the first time we went out 7 weeks ago. I hated it, but it's all behind me now. After the way Greg treated me, I will never go back to him. What are you going to do? I don't know. If I could believe you, I would do one thing, but you may not be telling me the truth. I better get you back to your mother's. I'll leave you up the street in case she's home already. I've never liked you very much, but that may have been because of Megan. Would you do me one favor and not tell your mother or Megan that you've been out with me? Of course, Ethan, that was understood. Good luck with Megan. I hope you resolve this without too much pain. 2 more questions. Did you ever receive any money for what you've been doing? I never did, but Megan might have. Did you tell your mother about last night and where I found you too? Of course I did. I dropped Monica off as agreed and found Linda still at the house. She soon left after telling me that Megan was sorry about where I found her and that she would make it up to me. Think of Ben and what it would be like if he didn't have a father here to love him. Who to believe? Monica or Megan? Or maybe neither. The 3 most glaring inconsistencies were that Linda and Megan were talking for my benefit. They knew I could hear them. After I sat down in the backyard, Megan leaned out the open window and looked down at me. She couldn't have known that the tipped-over glass lawn table was as good as a mirror. Then Linda claimed not to know why Monica needed shelter or what went on last night. The other item was the 3 $100 bills in Megan's purse when I brought it home with me last night. I would call Greg and find out if he had paid for the services and who took the money. Monica sure got trashed by Megan. I listened to Megan repeat word for word what she and Linda had said upstairs earlier that afternoon. She even managed to turn on some tears, claiming how much she was under Monica's thumb and made to do these horrible things that might cause me to stop loving her. I said I would think about it. I was so disturbed, I decided to go to bed. Megan wanted me to sleep in the same room with her, even though I made it clear that I wouldn't want to get intimate. No, I said flatly. I was in and out of the house during the day. Ben loved having me home, and when I went out, I took him with me most of the time. I ignored Megan as much as possible. She made an effort, though, fixing 3 meals that were far above her usual effort in the kitchen. Monday, I was back at work, putting in long hours to wrap up the project. I made one stop and hired an investigator to keep an eye on things at home. I wanted to know what was going on, so I arranged for surveillance equipment to be installed. Friday, I asked Megan if she wanted to go as a family to the local theme park. She jumped at the chance. We spent the day together, staying out longer than the 3 hours needed for the surveillance to be set up. If anyone saw us, they would have thought Megan, Ben, and I were the happiest family in town. Megan clung to me all day, holding my hand, clutching my arm. She wasn't the only one acting. Deep down, I hoped it wasn't an act on her part. If the investigator didn't uncover anything new, I might have to consider forgiving her for what had already happened. Sunday evening, Megan told me how much she loved me and how certain she was that we could be a happy family again. I can tell you're going to forgive me, she said confidently. We still have some issues to work out. Don't forget you have an appointment Thursday, I countered. Do you think that's still necessary? Yes, I do. If you don't go, I'll think you aren't serious about getting things straightened out. Okay, I'll go. But I don't see why. Monday night, I stayed late at work. When I finally left at 9:30, Monica was waiting beside my car. Ethan, I wanted you to know that Ben was at Mom's all afternoon and didn't get picked up until 7:30 tonight. Megan dropped him off, dressed as sexy as I've ever seen her. I think she connected with someone because she looked frazzled when she picked him up. Thanks, Monica. I think I've got it covered. If I can do anything to help, let me know. You're still not sure about me, are you? I want to be, but I need more time. How long are you staying with Mom? I'm moving back home tomorrow. I got a restraining order against Greg, so I have the house until the court decides otherwise. Mom will be relieved. Call me sometime. Not for anything, but you've been the only one treating me decently at all. Thank you. I may call, but it won't be before this time next week. That'll be fine. Night, Ethan. That week, I worked late every night to finish the project. On Wednesday, I called Monica just to check in and say hello. At home, Megan was always freshly showered and wearing makeup when I got back. I barely saw Ben in the mornings before heading to work. I missed the little guy, but it wouldn't be for much longer. Thursday evening, I questioned Megan about her appointment with Sarah Collins, the marriage counselor. I don't like her. She asks too many personal questions. I don't think I'll go next week. Yes, you will. I'll be with you. I'm curious about her. I've never been to someone like that before. Is she old, young, pretty, or plain? She's old. She said she's been counseling for more than 40 years. She claims she's neutral, but I don't think she likes me. Well, we can find someone else if I don't think she'll do us any good. Don't I have a say in this? No. The project was completed Friday at noon, and the boss took my team out for lunch. It was a mix of solid food and plenty of drinks. I sat next to Greg, who was back in town for the project's wind-up. When we had a private moment, he spoke up. The old man called me, He told me to keep my mouth shut. I would have anyway. My wife would divorce me in a second if she found out. You won't need me to testify if you divorce Megan, will you? I'll try not to. Question. Did you give Megan any money for her time with you and Monica? I gave Megan $300, and she said she'd give Monica her cut. Why? No reason. I was just curious if she was charging, that's all. Actually, I feel cheated. I was gonna let you have Monica, and I was planning on going back for more with your wife. I've been with experienced women before, but none like her. That hurts, I said dryly. Come on, I'll buy you another drink. When I got home around 5 p.m., Megan and Ben weren't there. I was exhausted after the long week and fell asleep on the couch. The next thing I knew, Ben was climbing on me, covering my face with kisses. I looked at the clock. It was 7 p.m. I'll get dinner ready as soon as I take a shower, Megan called from the kitchen. I've been shopping all day with Ben, and I'm filthy. Watch him for a bit, will you? Hey, little man, I said, pulling Ben into a hug. I've missed you. I'm gonna see you every night from now on. Where have you been spending your time? I go to Grammy's house every day and watch TV. Nobody plays with me. Will you play with me? Sure, right now. Where are your trucks? Ben ran off to grab them, and we built a garage out of empty shoeboxes. Megan came down and started dinner. Ben fell asleep before it was ready. It's a shame Ben didn't get to eat anything, I said. Why did you keep him out so late? He had something to eat. I stopped at Mom's and she fed him while we talked. He's fine. Is your project finished? She asked. Yes. I'll be home every night from now on. We'll be a family again. Megan wanted me to sleep in our bedroom that night. I was tempted. It had been almost a month since we'd been intimate. But I was still waiting on the test results from the clinic, and even if they came back clean, I couldn't shake the suspicion that she might have been with someone else recently. In the morning, Megan took Ben grocery shopping. I rushed downstairs to my workshop. I had been replacing the surveillance tapes every night, but I hadn't had a chance to review them until now. Megan had been busy. On both Tuesday and Wednesday, she had entertained a male guest in our bedroom. The cameras caught money changing hands. Now I knew what Megan liked for sex, and it went far beyond what I considered necessary for a healthy marriage. The camera even captured where Megan kept her earnings in the bedroom. I wrapped the tapes and put them in my car. I went upstairs and lifted the false shelf in the closet. Bundles of money were stashed there, held together by rubber bands. I left 3 $100 bills that hadn't been bundled yet and took the rest with me. I left Megan a note on the kitchen table saying I would be back for lunch and drove down to the bus station. There, I rented a locker for the cash and surveillance tapes. After securing the tapes and cash, I went to meet the private investigator I had hired. He handed me his report, which was even more incriminating. On Monday and Friday, Megan had gone to a small motel, staying for about 2 hours in rooms 17 and 21, respectively. The same 2 men entered the room with her on both occasions. Their names and home addresses were included in the report, pulled from the motel's rental logs. I read through the report and found a couple of other details that interested me. Armed with this, I returned home just as Megan and Ben were coming back from the grocery store. I helped unload the bags and sat in the kitchen, watching as Megan prepared lunch. Ben climbed all over me, his little giggles making me smile despite everything. I made a decision right then. No matter what, Ben would always be my son, and I would never give him up. How about going to the petting zoo this afternoon, Ben? I asked. Ben would like that. Megan chimed in before Ben could answer. Sure, why not? I just love going places as a family, Megan added, smiling sweetly. I was hoping the results of the tests you asked me to take would be in the mail today, she said. They weren't, so I guess we'll have to wait until Monday. That afternoon, we spent time at the petting zoo. It was fun for Ben, but Megan could sense something different in me. Ethan, you're quiet. Is something wrong with the project you just completed? No, that went well. I'm just coming down from the intense focus I had to give it in winding everything up. It shouldn't bother you. That evening, I played with Ben until he was too tired to keep his eyes open and fell asleep. After putting him to bed, I took a shower and retreated to the guest room. I turned on the small TV to watch the news. Megan complained about my absence but didn't push the issue. In the morning, I woke up refreshed and with a clear course of action. I mowed the lawn, washed the cars, and fixed the table in the backyard. I'm going to get barbecue stuff. Do you want steak or just hot dogs and burgers? I asked Megan. Steak. I'll make some potato salad. Would you grab some soda for Ben? This feels like when we were first married, she said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Yes, we were very happy then. But things never stay the same. Sometimes change is good, and sometimes bad. What are you talking about? Oh, you mean the other night? I explained that it wasn't my fault. Monica was to blame, maybe. But you were there, and I don't know if I can get over it. Ethan, that's all behind us. No more going out with the girls for me. At least you didn't fight with me like Greg did with Monica. I almost could feel sorry for her if she hadn't blackmailed me into being unfaithful. I thought to myself, what a load of crap. The week dragged on, with Megan continuing to argue about attending the marriage counselor's sessions. You know my conditions, I told her. Your choice. Thursday, when I reached the counselor's office, Megan wasn't there. Mrs. Collins, I said, I don't think you'll see either of us again. My wife evidently doesn't want to save our marriage. As soon as I left the counselor, I made a call. If and when you find my wife, go ahead and serve her. She might even be at her home address. I'm going there now. She wasn't there. When I called Linda, she picked up immediately. Is Ben with you? Yes, he's here. Something has happened to Megan. She dropped Ben off and was screaming she was robbed. I have no idea what she was talking about. Do you? No. I'm home. And it doesn't look like the house has been broken into. We don't keep much cash in the house. Maybe her car was stolen? Couldn't be that, she was driving it. What about Ben? Are you coming to get him? I'll be there in a few minutes. That evening, I heard nothing from Megan. Ben and I had a quiet night, and I called in to take a personal day off work the next morning. After putting Ben to bed that night, I decided to go through our home computer. Megan had mentioned wanting to write, and I wanted to know what she had been working on. It didn't take long to find a folder labeled stories. The content was shocking, graphic accounts of sexual escapades, clearly drawn from her own experiences. One file required a separate password to open. Megan had always been careless with passwords, and after searching her desk, I found it taped to the underside of a drawer. The file contained videos and images, damning evidence of her exploits, including compromising footage of Monica. I downloaded the files onto a USB drive, erased them from the computer, and put the drive in a secure spot under the living room rug where no one would step on it. At 10:00 a.m. the next morning, I received a call from the process server. I found your wife and served her. She was at the same motel where she had appointments earlier in the week. At noon, Megan arrived home. She looked terrible, like someone who hadn't slept in days. I expected her to be angry, but she acted defeated. Damn it, Ethan, you didn't wait very long before having me served. I'm sorry about the appointment yesterday, she said, trying to change the subject. I had a crisis, and that would be, I've been saving money from the household account, and somebody stole it. I'll admit I saved it for mad money, Ethan. Now I don't have anything. No, I guess you don't. You don't even have me. What are you going to do? Are you kicking me out? I need a place to live to take care of Ben. I'm still your wife and the mother of your son. You can't make me leave. You can stay for a short time. I can't figure you out. There are millions of women who would love to have a husband treat them as I've treated you. You haven't had to work, you've had plenty of money, and all you had to do was stay home and be a good mother to our son. Instead, you've gone out and messed around, and from all reports, it's been for most of our marriage. Even when I caught you, you continued to mess around. Tell me you didn't sleep with anyone else last week. Twice right here in this house. You don't know that, she snapped. I do, and I have the pictures to prove it. How? A private detective followed you when you were out and saw you at the motel. I also had cameras installed in the house. They're gone now, but the detective compiled enough evidence in just 1 week for me to take Ben from you. I'll show some of the pictures taken from the tapes to your lawyer. He can advise you whether to fight the divorce and for custody of Ben or not. It's all Monica's fault. She made me do it. That's garbage. It's you who's at fault. Everything you said Monica did was actually you. My eyes are open now. Why don't you admit you're a hooker? At least then I could respect you for being honest. Okay, I'm a hooker. Does that suit you? We stared at each other. What now? She asked bitterly. I don't know. I can't live with you, that's for sure. I guess it comes down to what's best for Ben. Do you have any suggestions? No. How are you going to support yourself? I suppose by doing just what I've been doing. Pays pretty well if I don't get robbed again. So that's what you were talking about, losing your money? Yeah. For years of earnings gone. Megan, did you ever love me? What I feel for you I don't suppose could be called love. I am very fond of you, though. I guess I always knew you'd find out someday, and maybe I'm sorry about that. You've been good to me, but I've resented you when I had to stay in at night while I could have been out doing my thing. What about our marriage vows? Didn't they mean anything to you? Not really. They're just a bunch of words. She paused, then added with a bitter smile, you should hook up with Monica. She's gullible and trusting enough to give you a shot. If you wanted someone to be true to you, she'd be a prime candidate. Greg will never take her back, and she doesn't want him after he hit her. Maybe that's the answer to our problems, I replied. Megan eventually moved out. She didn't go far. Her mother, Linda, let her stay at her house for a while. Megan quickly returned to work, this time under the management of someone she called a business partner, but was clearly a pimp. She claimed it was safer this way, with clients being screened to reduce risks. I stayed in the house with Ben. With Megan out of the picture, life took on a semblance of normalcy. Ben adjusted well to the changes, and I worked hard to provide a stable environment for him. One day, Monica called me out of the blue. Ethan, can we meet? I want to talk about some things. Sure, Monica. We met at a small coffee shop. She looked like she'd been through hell but was trying to pull herself together. I just wanted to thank you, she began. For what? For treating me decently, even after everything. I've been staying away from Greg, and I'm trying to start over. I've got a job now, not much, but it's a start. That's good, Monica. I'm glad to hear it. We talked for a while, and as I listened to her, I realized that beneath all the chaos in her life, she was genuinely trying to change. Back at home, Megan continued to pop in and out to see Ben. Each time it was a struggle. She often showed up unannounced, disrupting our routine. Eventually, I had to set boundaries. Megan, you can't just come here whenever you feel like it. Ben needs stability, and this isn't helping. Stability? I'm his mother. Yes, but that doesn't give you the right to disrupt his life whenever it suits you. If you want to see him, we need to set a schedule. She reluctantly agreed. Months passed, and I focused on raising Ben. Monica and I began to spend more time together. Not romantically, but as two people who had been through the worst and were trying to rebuild their lives. One evening, she said, Ethan, I don't know if you'll ever forgive Megan, but you deserve to be happy. Don't let what happened ruin your chances at a good life. Her words stuck with me. Megan's visits with Ben became more infrequent as time passed. Despite the chaos she brought into our lives, I couldn't deny that she still cared for Ben in her own way, but her work and lifestyle were clearly her priority. She would occasionally drop off gifts for him, most of which were extravagant or inappropriate for his age. One day, during a rare civil conversation, I asked Megan, do you ever think about how your choices affect Ben? He's growing up fast, and he notices more than you think. She looked away, avoiding my gaze. I do think about it, Ethan. I know I've screwed up a lot, but I don't know how to fix it. Maybe I'm not meant to be a mother. Ben deserves better than this. If you can't be consistent, maybe it's better if you stay away for a while. She nodded silently, tears forming in her eyes, and left without saying goodbye to Ben. Meanwhile, Monica's transformation continued. She found steady work, moved into a modest apartment, and started therapy. Over time, our conversations grew deeper, and I found myself looking forward to her calls and visits. One evening, as we sat in my living room after putting Ben to bed, Monica said, Ethan, I don't know how to say this, but thank you for believing in me. You didn't have to, and I don't think I deserved it, but you did anyway. Monica, you've come a long way. You deserve the credit for that, not me. She smiled, but there was something in her eyes, something hopeful yet uncertain. By the time Ben turned 4, life had settled into a manageable routine. Megan's visits became sporadic, and Ben started to ask fewer questions about her absences. He was thriving in the stable environment I worked hard to create for him. Monica had become an integral part of our lives, not just as Ben's aunt but as someone I could depend on. She had her struggles, but she faced them head-on, and I respected her for that. One night, after we had dinner together, Monica looked at me and said, "Ethan, I know this might sound crazy, but have you ever thought about us? I mean, we've been through so much together, and I feel like we're a team. I care about you, Ethan, more than I probably should." Her confession caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. "Monica, I care about you too, but I need time to figure out what that means. For me, for Ben, for us. Take all the time you need," she said with a soft smile. As the years passed, Megan faded further from our lives. I heard through Linda that she had moved to another city and was working under a different manager. It seemed like she was content with her choices, even if they continued to hurt the people who once cared about her. Monica and I grew closer, and our relationship eventually blossomed into something neither of us had expected. She became not just Ben's aunt but a mother figure he could rely on. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching Ben play in the yard, Monica said, "Ethan, do you think we can really build something good out of all this mess?" I took her hand and replied, "We already have." Monica and I officially began a relationship a year after her confession. It was gradual and thoughtful, with both of us prioritizing Ben's well-being above all else. She moved into the house not as a sudden change, but as a natural progression of her growing role in our lives. Ben adjusted seamlessly, calling Monica Mommy Monica on his own. She never pushed for the title but embraced it when it came. Watching her interact with Ben, I realized how much she had grown, both as a person and as someone who cared deeply for our little family. Megan's contact with Ben dwindled to an occasional birthday card or a call at Christmas. She remained distant, and while Ben noticed, he never expressed much disappointment. Monica filled the void with her unwavering presence and love. One evening, after Ben had gone to bed, Monica and I sat on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder. "Ethan," she said quietly, "do you think Megan will ever come back into Ben's life?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. "I've stopped expecting anything from her. She makes her choices and we can't control them. What we can do is make sure Ben knows he's loved and supported." She nodded, her hand finding mine. "That's all that matters." 2 years later, Monica and I got married in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. Linda, Megan's mother, came, but Megan herself was nowhere to be found. I didn't expect her to show, but it still stung a little for Ben's sake. At the reception, Linda pulled me aside. "Ethan, I'm so happy for you and Monica. She's always had a good heart, even if she got lost for a while." "Thank you, Linda," I said sincerely. "I hope Megan can find her way too someday." Linda sighed. "She's not ready, Ethan. She might never be. But I know she regrets not being here for Ben." Life moved forward. Monica and I worked together to build a loving home for Ben. He thrived in school, made friends easily, and seemed to carry none of the weight of the chaos from his earlier years. Monica became a beacon of stability for both of us. One day, when Ben was around 10, he came home with a school project about family history. "Can I talk about Mommy Monica and you as my parents?" he asked. "Of course," I said, pulling him into a hug. "That's exactly what we are." He beamed, and I saw in his smile the confidence and security that Monica and I had worked so hard to provide. Years later, when Ben was about to graduate high school, we received an unexpected letter from Megan. She was in rehab and wanted to reconnect with Ben. The letter was full of apologies and admissions of her failures. She asked if Ben would be willing to meet her when she completed her program. When I showed the letter to Ben, he read it silently, then handed it back to me. "What do you think, Dad?" he asked. "It's up to you, Ben. I'll support whatever you decide." He thought about it for a moment. "I think I'll meet her, but I want you and Mommy Monica to be there too." The meeting was bittersweet. Megan looked older, tired, and worn from years of poor choices. But there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. She hugged Ben tightly, tears streaming down her face, apologizing over and over. Ben, ever the mature and compassionate young man, simply said, "It's okay, Mom. I'm doing fine now." Megan glanced at Monica and me, her expression a mix of gratitude and guilt. "Thank you," she whispered. Monica smiled kindly. We all just want what's best for Ben. Though Megan remained on the periphery of Ben's life, he was content with the family he had. Monica and I watched him grow into a remarkable man, one who carried the lessons of love, resilience, and forgiveness with him wherever he went. In the end, the chaos that Megan had brought into our lives had given way to peace, love, and a family rebuilt from the ashes. Years went by, and Ben thrived. He graduated from high school with honors and earned a scholarship to a top-tier university. Monica and I couldn't have been prouder as we watched him walk across the stage to receive his diploma. Megan, despite her efforts to reconnect, didn't attend. Ben didn't seem surprised or disappointed. Later that night, during the celebration at our house, Ben pulled Monica and me aside. "I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything you've done for me," he said. "You've always been there, even when things were hard. I don't know where I'd be without you too." Monica hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. "We love you, Ben. That's all that matters." Megan remained in sporadic contact. After completing her rehab program, she found work at a counseling center, helping others struggling with addiction. Though she never fully integrated back into Ben's life, she stayed sober and occasionally sent letters updating him on her progress. One day, Ben received a letter from Megan that included a picture of her with a small group of people, her support group, she explained. She looked healthier than she had in years, and though the lines of hardship were still etched into her face, there was a spark of hope in her expression. "Do you want to write back?" I asked Ben after he read the letter. "Maybe," he said thoughtfully. "I'm glad she's doing better, but I feel like I've moved on. You and Mommy Monica are my family. Monica and I built a life that was full of love and purpose. Over time, we had 2 more children, a boy and a girl. Ben became an amazing older brother, often stepping in to help with the little ones. Watching him play with them in the backyard, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for how far we had come as a family." One evening, as Monica and I sat on the porch watching the kids chase fireflies, she turned to me and said, "Ethan, do you ever think about how different things could have been?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I wouldn't change where we are now. This is everything I could have hoped for." She smiled and rested her head on my shoulder. "Me too." As Ben grew older, he maintained a cautious relationship with Megan. They exchanged letters and occasionally spoke on the phone, but he kept her at a distance. He once told me, "I've forgiven her, Dad, but it's hard to forget. You and Monica gave me everything I needed, and I don't want to lose that connection." I understood. Forgiveness didn't always mean rebuilding trust, and Ben had every right to protect the peace and stability he cherished. When Ben graduated from college, Megan made a surprising appearance. She stood at the back of the crowd, watching quietly. After the ceremony, she approached us hesitantly. "Ben, I just wanted to say congratulations," she said softly. Ben smiled politely. "Thanks, Mom." She looked at Monica and me, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you both for everything you've done for him. He's a remarkable young man because of you." "Took all of us," Monica replied warmly. Megan nodded, then excused herself, leaving as quietly as she had arrived. Ben eventually married and started a family of his own. Monica and I became grandparents, a role we embraced with joy. Megan occasionally visited, but she respected the boundaries Ben had set. In the end, Megan found her own version of peace. She stayed connected to her support group and continued her work at the counseling center. She once wrote to Ben, "I've learned that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about living differently now. I hope I've done that in some small way." Ben shared the letter with me, and I felt a sense of closure. Despite everything, Megan had finally found a way to heal. Our family grew, and so did the love we shared. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real and it was ours. Through the hardships and heartaches, we had built something strong, something worth cherishing. And in the end, that was enough. As the years passed, the echoes of the past softened. Monica and I watched as Ben built a life filled with love and stability, something we had fought so hard to give him. He often brought his wife and children over for Sunday dinners, where the house was filled with laughter and the sounds of little feet running around. Our 2 younger children, Caleb and Sophie, adored their older brother. They idolized him, often begging him to tell them stories about his time at university or adventures with his family. Watching Ben patiently indulge their endless curiosity, I saw the man he had become, strong, compassionate, and deeply rooted in the values we had tried to instill in him. One day, Ben asked if he could bring Megan to one of our family dinners. She's been doing well, he said, and she's asked to be more involved. I think it might be good for her to see what my life is like now. Monica and I exchanged a glance. We both knew this was a significant step for Ben. Of course, I said, if that's what you want. When Megan arrived, she was visibly nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped through the door, and her eyes scanned the room as if expecting judgment. "Mommy Megan," Sophie exclaimed, running up to her with a child's innocent enthusiasm. Caleb followed close behind, curious but a little more reserved. Megan's face softened as she knelt down to greet them. "You must be Caleb and Sophie," she said with a warm smile. Dinner was a mix of awkwardness and warmth. Megan stayed quiet for most of the meal, observing rather than participating. But as the evening wore on, she relaxed, even sharing a few laughs as Ben's kids regaled her with stories about their adventures. Before she left, Megan pulled me aside. "Ethan, I know I can never undo the damage I caused, but thank you for letting me be here. This means more to me than you know. Everyone deserves a chance to make things right," I said, "and this is a good start." Megan's presence became an occasional fixture at family gatherings. She was cautious not to overstep, and though she still struggled with guilt, she made an effort to reconnect with Ben and his children. Monica and I admired her growth, even if the wounds she left behind hadn't completely healed. Years later, Megan was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The news hit harder than I expected. Despite everything, she had been a part of my life for so long that the thought of losing her felt surreal. Ben took the news with quiet resolve. He visited her regularly, often bringing his children along to brighten her days. On one of those visits, Megan asked to speak with me alone. "Ethan," she began, her voice weak but steady, "I want you to know how much I regret everything. Not just for Ben, but for you and Monica too. You both gave him the life I couldn't, and I'll always be grateful for that." "You've come a long way, Megan," I replied. "You've made mistakes, but you've also worked hard to make amends. That's what matters now." When Megan passed, Ben arranged a small, quiet service. Only close family attended. Monica held my hand tightly as we watched Ben deliver a heartfelt eulogy, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "She wasn't perfect," he said, "but she tried. And in the end, she taught me that it's never too late to try to be better." Life moved on as it always does. The scars of the past didn't disappear, but they became part of the story that shaped us. Monica and I watched as our children and grandchildren thrived, carrying forward the lessons we had learned through hardship and love. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Monica rested her head on my shoulder. "Do you think we did enough, Ethan?" she asked softly. I smiled, kissing the top of her head. "More than enough. Look at them, all of them. That's our legacy." And as the sounds of laughter echoed from the backyard where our grandchildren played, I knew she was right. We had done enough. Life after Megan's passing settled into a rhythm. Ben remained the anchor of our family, and his strength in navigating his mother's complex legacy inspired both Monica and me. He often reflected on the lessons he had learned, not just from us but also from Megan's struggles. "Dad," Ben said one evening as we sat together on the porch, watching Caleb and Sophie play in the yard, "I've realized something. Mom's mistakes taught me as much as your and Monica's love did. They showed me what I didn't want to become and pushed me to be better for my kids." "You've done more than be better, Ben," I said. "You've shown that forgiveness and growth are possible. That's a lesson your kids will carry with them." Monica continued to be the glue that held our family together. Her relationship with Ben remained strong, and she became a beloved grandmother to his children and a guiding presence for Caleb and Sophie. Watching her navigate the complexities of our blended family with such grace reminded me daily of how lucky I was to have her by my side. One afternoon, as we prepared for Caleb's high school graduation, Monica pulled me aside. "Ethan, do you ever think about what Megan's life would have been like if things had been different?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but dwelling on what could have been doesn't change what was. What matters is what we built out of the pieces we were given." She nodded, her eyes filled with emotion. "We did the best we could, didn't we?" "The best and then some," I said, pulling her into a hug. Years turned into decades and our family grew. Ben's children followed in his footsteps, excelling in school and building lives full of promise. Caleb and Sophie went on to have families of their own, and Monica and I found joy in watching the next generation thrive. One sunny afternoon, The entire family gathered for a picnic in the backyard. The air was filled with laughter and the smell of barbecue as children ran around, their energy infectious. Ben's eldest son, now in his early 20s, approached me with a thoughtful expression. "Grandpa," he said, "Dad talks a lot about you and Grandma Monica. He says everything he learned about being a parent came from you too." "Your dad's being kind," I replied with a smile. "But he's always been a natural. We just gave him the foundation." "Well, I hope I can be half as good as all of you have been." "You'll be more than good," I said, patting his shoulder. "You've got the best examples to follow." In our later years, Monica and I often found ourselves reminiscing about the journey that had brought us here. One evening, as we sat by the fire, she said, "Ethan, it's strange, isn't it? How something so broken can turn into something so beautiful." "It's not strange at all," I replied. "It's life, and we made the most of it." She smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I wouldn't change a thing." "Neither would I said, taking her hand in mine. When the time came for Monica and me to step back from the world, we knew we were leaving behind something extraordinary. Our family, forged through love, loss, and resilience, was our greatest achievement. Ben delivered the eulogy at Monica's funeral, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "My parents taught me that love isn't perfect, but it's powerful. It can heal wounds, bridge divides, and create something beautiful out of the hardest circumstances." That's their legacy, and it's one I'll carry with me always. As I approached my own final days, I reflected on the long, winding road that had brought me to this moment. Despite the pain, the mistakes, and the heartache, I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the love we shared. Gratitude for the family we built. Gratitude for a life well lived. And as I closed my eyes for the last time, I knew one thing for certain: it had all been worth it. The years passed quietly after Monica's death. The house that had once echoed with laughter and the sounds of a bustling family now stood quieter, a repository of memories that I carried with me every day. Caleb and Sophie visited often, bringing their children, and Ben called regularly to check in, his voice always warm with love and concern. I found joy in the simplicity of my days, tending to the garden Monica had loved, watching the seasons change from the porch, and rereading the letters she had written to me over the years. Each word reminded me of the life we had built together, the trials we had endured, and the love that had bound us through it all. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ben came by for a visit, his teenage daughter in tow. As we sat on the porch sipping coffee, he looked out at the yard where his daughter played. "Dad," he said, his voice thoughtful, "do you ever think about how far we've come?" "All the time," I replied, smiling. "It's the quiet moments like this when it hits me the most. We went through so much, but we never gave up." Ben nodded. "I try to raise my kids the way you and Monica raised me, with patience, understanding, and love. I hope I'm doing okay." "You're doing better than okay," I said. "You've become the kind of father any child would be lucky to have." That evening, as Ben and his daughter left, he paused at the door. "Dad, I know we don't say it enough, but we love you. You and Monica built this family, and we'll carry that legacy forward. Promise." I hugged him tightly, my heart full. "I know you will, Ben. I couldn't be prouder of you." As the seasons turned, my body began to slow, but my spirit remained light. I knew my time was drawing near, and I welcomed it with peace. I had lived a full life, one filled with love, growth, and purpose. One quiet evening, as the sun set in hues of gold and crimson, I sat on the porch wrapped in a warm blanket. The air was cool, the scent of autumn leaves filling the breeze. I closed my eyes, letting the memories wash over me. Monica's laughter, Ben's first steps, the chaos and joy of family dinners, and the love that had carried us all through the darkest times. The next morning, Caleb found me sitting peacefully in my chair, a gentle smile on my face. I had passed in the night, surrounded by the memories of a life well lived. At my funeral, Ben delivered the eulogy, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "My father taught me that life is about the choices we make and the love we give. He showed me that no matter how broken things may seem, they can be rebuilt with patience, forgiveness, and faith in the people we care about. His life was a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of family. Dad, you've left us with so much lessons, love, and a legacy we'll carry with us forever." We'll honor you by living the way you taught us with kindness, strength, and an unshakable belief in the power of love. And so, the story came to an end. A family once fractured was healed, and the legacy of love and forgiveness carried forward to the next generation. In the quiet echoes of the past, there was peace. And in the hearts of those who remained, there was a love that would never fade. And that's the end of this powerful story about resilience, forgiveness, and family. What would you do in their shoes? Could you forgive Megan? Or is some damage irreversible? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.